my god, look at my handsome son. Another day, another artist trying to claim that they drew it themselves. Or is this a false AI accusation? Let's delve in and check this out. And again, don't send hate to any parties involved. So this was posted to Threads, and OP writes, "Help! I need help checking this art. I want to hire an artist to make art for one of my characters, and this is their profile. I just want to know if the art is AI, because it looks like it is to me. No, I don't need any self-promo or art recs. This isn't a commission request post. I just want somebody who's good at detecting whether the art is AI generated or not." So this is the account. The account goes with the handle Victoria Mikasa 23. And they have this image where it is a man in a suit kind of leaning over a woman who is wearing a wine-colored dress. She's kind of looking up at him and he's got his finger under her chin, kind of like tilting her head up. Then we have a sketch, and this is another one of the examples of their artwork. Here's a bigger version of their art piece on their Instagram page, and this is really interesting. Now, I want to preface this by saying that every artist has their own art style, every artist draws in their own specific way. So just because like one person does this and I'm saying these things doesn't mean that, if you do it, it means your work is AI generated. That's not the case. When it comes to AI, again, determining, we take a look at a lot of things, looking at the artist's full picture of their profile, the frequency of their posts, other things that look odd, because there can be situations where one thing happens and it's just like a human error, right? If you take a look at this artist page, they have one consistent art style. So it's not like we're seeing a variety of different art styles here. There is like this piece, which is in a little bit of a different art style, but maybe we can make, the belief that, this artist is experimenting with art styles because, of course, as an artist, you typically experiment. You may not just have one, but a lot of the other pieces have a lot of consistency in the style. So that is one thing to know here. One thing that comes to determining, okay, is this AI? Is this real? Does this artist post work in progresses, or do they only post finished photos? Now, again, not every artist will post their work in progresses. Some just choose for their own choice not to share it, which is completely fine. But it does help, prove that you hand drew something if we can see your work in progress. So this artist, in their post, they will have like a sketch or a line art one that is visible so we can see the process. Here's another one where they do a close-up and then boom, we also get the line art again. So we have the style consistency and we do see some, work in progress of the sketches, the line art, but then you look a little closer at the artworks and you start seeing some things that look a little bit interesting. So in this piece specifically, we have like a fairy who's kind of like leaning up to kiss the male lead, and she's doing the hair thing. She's got a strand of hair that loops right back into the rest of the hair again. Now, maybe it's a one-off thing. It could be artistic, choice or like human error. What's interesting though, in the line art, you can also see it. It also loops straight back into the hair in the liner as well, which means it's not like a rendering error or anything. But if you look at other details of the liner on this piece, there are more suspicious things that are happening. Mainly, if you look at the flowers here, the flowers are pretty, evenly lined, etc. They're all lined out, but then we have some sort of like crunching happening here in the bottom right hand corner of the flowers that doesn't give me confidence that's human drawn. A big one is just like, would a human draw this? Would a human draw a bunch of flowers kind of crunched up like this? Maybe you accidentally hit the liquify tool and liquefied that in the corner, but that looks a little bit odd. And then you look at the vines climbing up the trellis, and that also looks very odd, in that there are details that don't really match up here, but maybe it's a one-off thing. Here is another piece. We have a woman with red hair who is crying, leaning against the man who's kind of holding her hand, and he's kind of holding her in a warm embrace. We get a little bit of a close up. There's already something that looks a little bit odd here. There is a little bubble beneath her pinky finger. What exactly is that supposed to be? It's not a mistake either, because, okay, look here, and this is what's weird. If you look at the line art layer, you can see that bubble is still there. So it's not like an accidental brushstroke that was left. It was specifically drawn into the line art. Again, if you put yourself in the mind of a human artist, you're a human, you're drawing this, why would you put a bubble beneath her pinky like that? Because that's not how your hand creases. It looks like she's holding like a little diamond or something. And then if you look here at the rendered version, it's different. Like the bubble changes. It's a much rounder bubble. It looks like a little bit of a pearl. It's like perfectly sphere in the line art. And then in the rendered version, it changes into much more of an oval shape. Again, if you put yourself in the mind of a human, why would you draw that? Because it wasn't like it was an accidental brushstroke, because it was in the line art layer and then changed in the final product. That's just odd. This piece is also weird. This is the liner. And again, so here we have a woman sitting on a bed in a nightgown, and the guy is kind of cupping her face and looking at her. Their foreheads are almost touching. They're making eye contact. They're looking kind of like deeply into each other's eyes, except she's kind of looking at his lips, which is like fine, romantic. He's looking into her eyes. Look at the rendered version. Where did the iris go? He's got no iris. It's just the white of his eyes. This just looks wrong. You're telling me an artist of the skill level wouldn't take one look and be like, "Ah, crap, I forgot the eyeball," because it was in the line art layer. It's just not in the final product. How did you not notice that? Accidents happen, but she doesn't have it either. She's got, the iris right here in the line art. In the final product, like maybe it's here, maybe this like extra darkened part of the eye is like the iris. It's just been interesting. But then if you look at her, she also has like a random strand of hair that goes from her earlobe, tucks into her hair, and then comes back out. It's like he's holding a strand of hair against her body. And she's got another strand of hair on her arm. Maybe they're brushstrokes left over, but this is not making me confident that this was human drawn. And then if you finally look at his tattoos, they look really garbled up. They look like he drew it on with a Sharpie and then he took a shower, so they smudged a little bit. Here we have another one. It's an office romance. They're standing by his desk. Behind you can see the skyline. It's nighttime. He's got his thumb against her jawline and they're looking into each other's eyes. It's very heated. We get a close up. What in the Lord is happening with the hand? He's got a fingernail in every hand except the pinky. The pinky looks decapitated. And this finger, what is this supposed to be? The hand is completely mucked up here, which is very odd. And then we see the sketch. And the mucked up hand is also in the sketch. Bro's got no fingernail on the pinky, but fingernails on every other finger for some reason. And the sketch is again doing something very odd, where the sketch has cross-hatching in it on the sketch. Now, again, everybody sketches differently, like line work and stuff like that. You would do some cross-hatching, whatever. But come on. For a sketch that you're going to color over, sometimes artists will block in where the shadows go, which is totally chill, right? But like to completely fill it in with cross-hatching as well, you don't really see the artist do that if they know they're going to color over it, because you won't see the cross-hatching in the final piece. Of course, artists will leave it in if they plan to leave the cross-hatching in the final colored version, but that's not how this artist's art style works. That's not visible in the final version. So what is the point of going through all that effort for all of the extra shading and stuff like that, the details you add in the sketch when it's gonna get colored over? And that was for this piece as well, the piece that was posted to Threads. We're going back to this one, the guy in the suit standing over her, because it's the same thing. His suit is completely shaded in with cross hatching, and there's extra details. There's like cross hatching, I guess if you go technical, is like this part right here, right? There's like hatching on the pants and things like that on the suit to show that it's darker. There's cross hatching inside the creases to show that it's even darker, and that's where more shading is gonna go. And the same thing is with her dress and her hair. This image is completely sketched in as if the sketch is going to be the final piece, as if this is only going to be a black and white pencil drawing. But again, it's not, because it's colored over. And I'm not saying that you can't do that. Like maybe the client wants both a black and white sketch version and a final version, but you don't really see that with artists. And then we look at the hand. Oh, and once again, we have the weird sausage fingers happening. The index finger and the ring finger are different skin tones than the rest of the hand. For some reason, it's just darker. He's got fingernails on only the middle finger. The ring finger lost its fingernail, the pinky has none, and the thumb on the other hand and the index finger are missing fingernails as well. But they look like they were supposed to have fingernails and they fell off. Which, on a complete side note, there is a disease where you can lose your fingernails. I actually got it when I was 16 and I did in fact lose all my fingernails from it, and that's kind of what my hands look like. You lose most of your fingernails, but not all of it, and they come out in chunks. Sorry, that's so TMI, but yeah, that's what my hands look like. No artist, I feel like, would draw that in the art piece. It doesn't really look cool. And he's got freaky eyes. What is going on with the iris, man? Again, the thing is, like, you can't tell the intent of what the artist is trying to draw. This is like completely garbled up. So going back to the original post, let's see what the commenters had to say. A commenter said, and this was the most liked comment, if an artist's sketch looks like a literal coloring page, it's AI. Sketches are not perfect or shaded. Even cleaner sketches are still rough at this stage. Another person adds, most likely AI, due to melting and inconsistencies in the hand. His eye is also off, and she's looking at his neck rather than eyes, which I doubt is intentional. All these things are very common with AI. And again, they zoom in on the post, they circled the funky hand and they circled the funky eyeball. Another person adds, yes, a good way to tell is that a real artist, no matter how clean their line art is, always looks sketchy. It's never that crisp or clean. I'll send examples of what my artist approved for me as a loose sketch for me to approve before the rendering happened. Yeah, I do want to add like the distinction, because like some artists do have a really clean looking line art, but this is a sketch. This is drawn to look like a sketch. And sketches typically look sketchy, and this is what they showed as some examples. These are really, really pretty. But yeah, as you can see, very sketchy. You can still see the circles for where the heads are supposed to be. Another person add, I have seen a commission artist before whose sketches and style look like this. Lighting is front facing and all clothing folds are perfect, hair strands make sense. However, this is weird to me. I'm not saying artists don't make mistakes, but these are weird. Here is the ear cutting into the hair, and then again, the bubble beneath the pinky. Another person adds, hey, please do better explaining why it's AI because it puts other genuine artists at risk of being accused of AI when you have coloring book line art, wrong clothing folds, poor anatomy. Again, I just want to add the context of all of that. Like, yeah, there are legitimate artists who do draw like this. It just needs to make sense, right? Like, if the client specifically asked, hey, I want a fully rendered sketch in black and white pencil, and I want a fully rendered colored version, it makes sense to have two versions like this. This doesn't look like that's the case because the artist always posts the full image, a close up, and the sketch or the line art. So it's not like the client asked for it because they're doing it for multiple pieces, which then that doesn't make any sense. I think the final thing for me is that the artist types their name as a watermark onto the art piece instead of having like a fully written out watermark or a sketch. This is a really minor detail, but I almost never see artists do that. And I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm not saying just because you typed your name on your art piece, it means you do that. No, no, no. Most of the time, artists handwrite or have some sort of stamp they use for their watermark that they put on their artwork. You almost never see an artist type their name out in a cursive font. So I just thought that was interesting because basically this artist has a lot of inconsistencies that you don't often see with artists. Too many. Typing their name on their art piece, having fully rendered, fully cleaned up coloring book looking sketches, where again, it's not like the client asked for it. They also have a lot of AI inconsistencies, like details that don't make sense, fingers that lose fingernails, but fingernails on other fingers on the exact same hands, that other types of inconsistencies like that. And the big one is really, really funky looking eyes, where they're never really looking at each other. And some characters just lose eyeballs, like they just lose their iris. So another comment says, agreeing with my fellow creatives, it's slop. Those sketches are generated, especially the first one. Why would you render a sketch to that detail just to drown it out with color? It's not even being utilized for value. So the end result is the public has concluded that the artist's work looks very suspicious and they likely deem it to be AI generated, being passed off as legitimate hand-drawn work. So at the end of the day, what are your thoughts? Do you think it's hand-drawn? Do you think it's AI generated? I would love to hear with respect. Don't bully anybody in the comment section down below. I personally think there's way too many inconsistencies, especially with the choppy hand and eyes for this to be hand-drawn, and that there is some deception happening here, allegedly. So with that, if you like this video, I appreciate it if you like and subscribe. Don't forget to check me out on Etsy. I have digital art over there for streamers, creators, like emotes, overlays, little frog stickers. I also have a coffee with free resources like a free sponsorship guide, and I stream on Twitch 3 days a week, Mondays and Saturdays at 6 p.m. and Thursdays at 7:30. I do a podcast with my friend. It's all PST, so I hope to catch you all there or in another one of my videos. Peace.